imagine the bustling set of Good Morning America, where the morning sun filters through the studio windows, casting a warm glow on the familiar faces of the hosts and their celebrity guests. On this particular day, the air was charged with anticipation as Hollywood icon Morgan Freeman, known for his deep, resonant voice and roles in films like The Shawshank Redemption and Driving Miss Daisy, stepped onto the stage to promote his latest project. George Stephanopoulos, the seasoned anchor with a background in politics and journalism, greeted him with a firm handshake and a polite smile. The audience, both in the studio and at home, settled in for what they expected to be a light-hearted conversation about Freeman's illustrious career and perhaps some insights into his personal life. But as the cameras rolled and the interview began, subtle tensions started to simmer beneath the surface. Stephanopoulos, ever the probing interviewer, delved into topics that Freeman seemed unprepared or unwilling to discuss in depth. Questions about Freeman's views on current political climates, his past controversies, and even his stance on social issues began to steer the dialogue away from the promotional intent. Freeman, typically composed and eloquent, responded with measured words at first, but his discomfort became evident through his body language: a slight furrow of the brow, a pause before answering. The exchange grew more pointed when Stephanopoulos pressed on a sensitive topic regarding allegations from years prior, which Freeman had addressed multiple times. Freeman's voice, usually soothing, took on a sharper edge as he defended his position, emphasizing the importance of context and fairness in media portrayals. The studio crew exchanged glances, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Viewers at home leaned closer to their screens, captivated by the unfolding drama. As the segment progressed, Freeman's frustration mounted, leading to a moment where he directly challenged Stephanopoulos' line of questioning, accusing him of sensationalism over substance. The anchor, maintaining his professional demeanor, attempted to redirect, but Freeman was not to be swayed. This clash, born from a clash of expectations and personalities, escalated quickly, turning what should have been a routine appearance into a memorable confrontation. The producers in the control room scrambled, debating whether to cut to commercial, but the live nature of the show kept the cameras rolling. Freeman's passion for authenticity clashed with Stephanopoulos' journalistic rigor, creating a spark that ignited the entire interview. In the end, Freeman made the bold decision to stand up and walk off the set, leaving the host stunned and the audience in shock. This incident would go on to spark widespread discussions about celebrity interviews, media ethics, and the boundaries between personal and public life. But let's rewind and explore how it all began, delving deeper into the backgrounds of these two formidable figures to understand the dynamics at play. Morgan Freeman, born in Memphis, Tennessee, rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most revered actors in Hollywood. His journey included serving in the Air Force, struggling in theater, and finally breaking through with roles that showcased his gravitas. George Stephanopoulos, on the other hand, cut his teeth in the high-stakes world of politics as a key advisor to President Bill Clinton before transitioning to broadcast journalism, where his sharp intellect and interviewing skills made him a staple on ABC. Their paths crossing on GMA was meant to be a highlight, but instead, it became a flashpoint. To fully appreciate the shocking clash that led to Morgan Freeman being kicked off Good Morning America, we must first understand the individuals involved and the context of their encounter. Morgan Freeman, at 88 years old, has a career spanning over 5 decades, marked by Academy Award wins and nominations, voicing documentaries, and even narrating the universe in films like March of the Penguins. His public persona is one of wisdom and calm authority, often likened to a modern-day sage. Yet, beneath this exterior lies a man who has faced personal trials, including a high-profile divorce and allegations of inappropriate behavior in 2018, which he vehemently denied and which were later investigated without charges. Freeman has always maintained that the media often twists narratives for clicks, a sentiment that perhaps fueled his reaction during the interview. George Stephanopoulos, 64, brings a different energy to the table. As a former White House communications director and chief of staff under Clinton, he navigated scandals like the Monica Lewinsky affair with poise. His move to journalism saw him co-anchoring GMA and hosting This Week, where his interviews with world leaders and celebrities are known for their depth and occasional confrontational style. Stephanopoulos prides himself on asking tough questions, believing it's essential for accountability. The stage was set for their meeting when Freeman was booked to discuss his new documentary on climate change, a topic close to his heart as an environmental advocate. However, the producers likely encouraged Stephanopoulos to touch on broader issues to boost ratings, a common practice in morning television. As the interview commenced, initial pleasantries gave way to more probing inquiries. Freeman shared anecdotes from his early days in acting, laughing about auditions gone wrong, but Stephanopoulos swiftly pivoted to contemporary matters. "Mr. Freeman, you've been vocal about racial inequality in Hollywood. Do you think progress has been made since your early career?" Seemed innocuous, but it opened the door to deeper waters. Freeman responded thoughtfully, acknowledging improvements but stressing ongoing challenges. The tone shifted when Stephanopoulos brought up the 2018 CNN report alleging harassment, framing it as a question about the Me Too movement's impact on the industry. Freeman's eyes narrowed, and he replied firmly, "I've addressed this before." "It's important to separate fact from allegation," Stephanopoulos persisted, asking for Freeman's reflection on how such claims affect legacies. This persistence irked Freeman, who felt it was an ambush rather than a discussion. The exchange heated up as Freeman accused the host of prioritizing scandal over substance, saying, "This is why people distrust the media who chase headlines instead of truth." Stephanopoulos defended his approach, stating it's his job to ask what the public wants to know. The back and forth intensified, with Freeman raising his voice slightly, a rarity for the actor. The studio audience gasped as the tension built, and social media began buzzing even before the segment ended. Producers signaled for a commercial break, but Freeman had had enough. He removed his microphone, stood up, and declared, "I'm done with this farce," before walking off set. Stephanopoulos, left alone on camera, composed himself and transitioned to the next segment, but the damage was done. This moment captured the fragility of live television and the clash between celebrity privacy and journalistic pursuit. In the aftermath, statements were issued, apologies considered, but the incident became a viral sensation, prompting debates on interview etiquette. Delving deeper into the prelude of the infamous Good Morning America incident, it's essential to examine the build-up that morning. Morgan Freeman arrived at the ABC studios in New York City early, as is his custom, sipping coffee and chatting amiably with the crew. He was there to promote his latest venture, a narrated series on African American history, aligning with his long-standing commitment to education and civil rights. The green room was abuzz with excitement. Staff members snapped selfies with the star, who obliged with his signature warm smile. George Stephanopoulos, meanwhile, prepared in his dressing room, reviewing notes on Freeman's career highlights and potential hot-button topics. As a journalist with a political edge, Stephanopoulos often infuses interviews with current events, believing it adds relevance. The show's format typically allows for a mix of fluff and substance, but on this day, the balance tipped dramatically. As the live broadcast began, co-hosts Robin Roberts and Michael Strahan introduced Freeman with glowing praise, highlighting his contributions to film and philanthropy. Freeman settled into the couch, appearing relaxed in a tailored suit. The initial questions were softball. "What's it like voicing God in Bruce Almighty?" Freeman chuckled, sharing behind-the-scenes stories that delighted the audience. But Stephanopoulos, taking the lead, steered towards more serious territory. He asked about Freeman's thoughts on the upcoming elections, given his past endorsements. Freeman responded diplomatically, emphasizing voter participation over partisanship. The pivot came abruptly when Stephanopoulos referenced a recent op-ed Freeman wrote on media bias. "You criticized networks for sensationalism. Do you include ABC in that?" Freeman paused, then said, "All media can fall into that trap if not careful." Unsatisfied, Stephanopoulos pressed, bringing up the 2018 allegations again, linking them to broader industry reckonings. Freeman's demeanor changed. He leaned forward, his voice firm. "George, I've been cleared, and it's old news. Why dredge it up now?" Stephanopoulos replied, "It's about accountability in Hollywood." This sparked a heated debate, with Freeman arguing that repeated questioning feels like harassment itself. The anchor countered that public figures must address public concerns. Voices rose, gestures became animated, and the co-hosts attempted to intervene, but the momentum was unstoppable. Freeman, feeling cornered, stated, "This isn't an interview, it's an interrogation." The clash peaked when Freeman accused Stephanopoulos of having a personal agenda, perhaps tied to his political past. Shocked, Stephanopoulos denied it, but the damage escalated. In a dramatic turn, Freeman unclipped his lavalier mic, tossed it on the table, and stood up. "I won't be part of this circus," he declared, striding off set amid stunned silence. The camera cut to a wide shot, showing the empty seat as Stephanopoulos regained composure. "Well, that was unexpected," he quipped, trying to lighten the mood. The control room erupted in chaos, with producers deciding to go to commercial. Post-break, the show continued without Freeman, but the incident was already trending on X and other platforms. Clips circulated rapidly, garnering millions of views. Public opinion split. Some praised Freeman for standing his ground, others criticized him for unprofessionalism. ABC issued a statement expressing regret for the uncomfortable exchange, while Freeman's team released one affirming his right to boundaries. This event highlighted the evolving dynamics of celebrity-media relations in an era of instant virality and accountability demands. As the shocking clash unfolded on Good Morning America, the intensity of the moment was palpable even through television screens across the nation. Morgan Freeman, usually the epitome of grace under pressure, found himself pushed to a limit he rarely reaches. The interview, which started with promise, devolved into a verbal sparring match that exposed raw emotions. George Stephanopoulos, with his trademark steely gaze, held his ground, but the power dynamic shifted dramatically. Freeman's frustration stemmed from what he perceived as a betrayal of the agreed-upon topics he had expected a focus on his new work, not a rehashing of past controversies. "I've spent my life building a legacy of integrity," Freeman boomed, his voice echoing in the studio. Stephanopoulos, undeterred, responded, "And part of that legacy involves addressing challenges head-on." This back-and-forth resembled a courtroom drama more than a morning chat show. Co-host Robin Roberts tried to mediate, suggesting a change of subject, but Freeman waved it off. "No, let's address this now," he said, turning directly to the camera as if speaking to viewers. He elaborated on how media scrutiny can destroy reputations without due process, drawing from his own experiences. Stephanopoulos interjected with facts from reports, but Freeman countered with his side, claiming misrepresentations. The argument intensified when personal jabs entered the fray. Freeman questioned Stephanopoulos' motives, hinting at ratings-driven sensationalism. "Is this about journalism or entertainment?" he asked pointedly. The anchor fired back, defending the role of tough questions in democracy. The studio audience, usually clapping enthusiastically, sat in uneasy silence, occasionally murmuring. Behind the scenes, producers signaled frantically for a wrap-up, but the live format left little room for intervention. Finally, overwhelmed, Freeman rose abruptly. "Enough is enough," he stated calmly yet firmly. As he walked off, the camera followed him briefly before cutting away. Stephanopoulos, momentarily flustered, smoothed his tie and addressed the audience. "We appreciate Mr. Freeman's time and wish him well." The transition to weather was awkward, but the real storm brewed online. Social media exploded with hashtags like #FreemanWalksOff and #Mashocker. Supporters of Freeman lauded his authenticity, while critics accused him of dodging accountability. Commentators on other networks analyzed the clip, debating if Stephanopoulos crossed a line. In interviews later, Freeman explained his actions, saying he felt disrespected and that walking away was the healthiest choice. ABC's internal review found no malice but recommended better pre-interview communications. This incident joined a pantheon of memorable TV walk-offs, from Joan Rivers on The Tonight Show to various political figures. It prompted discussions in journalism schools about ethical interviewing practices. For Freeman, it reinforced his image as a no-nonsense icon. For Stephanopoulos, it was a reminder of the unpredictability of live TV. The clash's ripple effects included boosted ratings for GMA that week, ironically proving Freeman's point about sensationalism. Public figures weighed in. Oprah Winfrey tweeted support for respectful dialogues, while Bill Maher joked about it on his show. Ultimately, the event underscored the delicate balance between probing journalism and personal respect, leaving a lasting mark on how celebrity interviews are conducted. In the immediate aftermath of Morgan Freeman's dramatic exit from Good Morning America following his clash with George Stephanopoulos, the studio descended into a whirlwind of activity. Crew members whispered in hushed tones, while the hosts ad-libbed to fill the airtime. Stephanopoulos, a veteran of high-pressure situations, quickly pivoted to the next segment on health tips, but his composed facade couldn't hide the surprise in his eyes. Backstage, Freeman was met by his publicist, who escorted him out amid apologies from some staff. He later recounted feeling a surge of adrenaline but no regret, believing he had stood up for his principles. The network's PR team sprang into action, crafting a neutral statement. "We value diverse perspectives and regret if today's discussion caused discomfort." Freeman's camp responded with, "Mr. Freeman appreciates the platform but prioritizes mutual respect." As news spread, media outlets scrambled for details. TMZ obtained grainy footage from audience phones, amplifying the moment. Late-night hosts like Jimmy Fallon parodied the walk-off, with skits exaggerating the drama for laughs. Social media divided into camps. #Team Freeman trended with memes praising his boldness, while others questioned his professionalism. Celebrities chimed in. Whoopi Goldberg on The View defended Freeman, saying interviews should honor guests' boundaries. Analysts pointed to broader trends, like increasing celebrity pushback against invasive questioning in the post-Me Too era. GMA's ratings spiked, drawing viewers curious about the fallout. The following day, Stephanopoulos addressed it briefly on air. "Interviews can get passionate, we learn from them." Freeman, in a subsequent podcast, elaborated, "I wasn't angry, just disappointed." Media has power, and with it comes responsibility. The incident sparked articles in Variety and The Hollywood Reporter, exploring power dynamics in TV. Some speculated it could affect Freeman's future appearances, but he booked more interviews, choosing outlets carefully. Stephanopoulos' reputation as a tough interviewer remained intact, perhaps even enhanced. Legal experts debated if any defamation occurred, but no suits were filed. Public discourse evolved to include mental health in high-profile settings, with advocates noting the stress of live scrutiny. Freeman used the buzz to promote his documentary, turning negativity into positivity. Months later, at award shows, the two reportedly crossed paths amicably, suggesting no lasting grudge. This event became a case study in communication courses, illustrating how misunderstandings escalate. For viewers, it was a reminder that behind the glamour, real emotions play out. The clash humanized both men. Freeman is principled, Stephanopoulos is dedicated. In retrospect, it might have been avoidable with clearer pre-show talks, but its occurrence highlighted evolving expectations in media. As time passed, the story faded, but its lessons lingered, influencing how hosts approach sensitive topics. Freeman continued his work, narrating projects and advocating causes. Undeterred, Stephanopoulos hosted more interviews, perhaps with added caution. The Good Morning America set returned to normalcy, but with an undercurrent of awareness that any day could bring unexpected drama. This incident, while shocking, ultimately contributed to a more thoughtful dialogue about respect in journalism and entertainment. Reflecting on the long-term implications of Morgan Freeman's kickoff from Good Morning America after his shocking clash with George Stephanopoulos, it's clear this event transcended a mere TV mishap to become a cultural touchstone. Media scholars dissected it in papers, arguing it exemplified the tension between celebrity autonomy and journalistic freedom. Freeman's walk-off inspired similar actions by others, like musicians abruptly ending podcasts when questions turned personal. Public sentiment largely favored Freeman, with polls showing 65% supporting his decision, viewing it as a stand against media overreach. Stephanopoulos, while facing some backlash, received praise from journalism peers for not backing down. ABC reviewed its guest protocols, implementing more detailed topic agreements to prevent future incidents. Freeman's career, far from suffering, saw a surge in interest. His documentary streamed record numbers, and he landed voice roles in major animations. He spoke at conferences about media literacy, urging audiences to question narratives.